Okay.
Hello, my name is Joesph, and today I will be interviewing a former Scotlandville High student. Can you state your name and the year you graduated from high school?
My name is Joseph and I graduated in 1968 from Scotlandville Senior High School Hornets.
How was going to Scotlandville for you, and when you went there, did, did you have a good experience?
I came to Scotlandville as a freshman, and it was kind of intimidating coming from the junior high school, but overall my experience at Scotlandville was great. I met a lot of friends. I still have some of those same friends from high school. I met a lot of teachers that I still talk to from time to time, and I see, and my experience overall at Scotlandville was great.
Okay. What activities did you participate in at Scotlandville?
Uh, Basically, I played baseball the whole 4 years that I was at Scotlandville. We won 3 district championships while I was there, and we made it to the semifinals in the state championship. But unfortunately, we never won a state championship while I was there. But we won 3 district championships.
That's good. What do you think is the biggest change from when you went to Scotlandville to now?
Right now, I think the biggest change from Scotlandville now as compared to when I went to school is that we initially had all community students. All the kids who went to Scotlandville basically lived within the vicinity of the Scotlandville High School itself. We had a few kids that came from Zion City, but most of those kids were driven to school or they rode to school with friends. And most of the kids in our neighborhood walked to school. We didn't have buses at that time. So it was pretty much make it on your own, however you could. They didn't have the busing like they have today. So community school was the thing where today we have kids coming to Scotlandville from all over the city.
Do you think the community is appreciated how it should be?
Appreciated what? How Scotlandville? Well, me personally, let me elaborate on that a little bit. Me personally, when they changed Scotlandville from the Hornets to the Eagles, I kind of disconnected because I grew up a Scotlandville Hornet, not a Scotlandville Eagle. When they changed the school from the Hornets to the Eagle, that kind of frustrated me, kind of disappointed me, and eventually they got it back, which I'm appreciative that they finally decided to go back to the Scotlandville Hornet because that's the Scotlandville that I knew. During the time that I was in the military, they kind of changed things in the area, and but fortunately they brought it back to Hornets.
Okay. Do you currently live in the Scotlandville community?
No, unfortunately I don't live in the Scotlandville community anymore. I live in the Zachary area. I was more or less concerned with the wide open spaces. I like wide open spaces. I like to be free and not congested, so I decided to move out into the rural area in Zachary, which now is the metropolitan area. It has changed from when I first initially moved up here. So, no, I don't live in Scotlandville, but my roots are in Scotland.
Okay. How was growing up in this community?
Growing up in Scotlandville was, from a standpoint of a boy, it was pretty interesting because I grew up in a neighborhood that, from a standpoint of people from the outside, they look at Scotlandville as being a negative environment. I learned a lot of things growing up in Scotlandville as a young kid because I grew up in predominantly a black neighborhood, a black community. There was no integration, so I wasn't exposed to racism per se. And I had a lot of guys that I had to contend with as a young black male in the Scotlandville area because we had, don't get me wrong, we had bad guys, so-called bad guys who intimidated or wanted to intimidate people, but I was fortunate to have a brother who was older than me and who people respected and they wouldn't bother me. So some kids were messed with, but they didn't bother me because my brother was kind of the one that kept them off me. And I was one that wasn't going to take a whole lot myself. But I was pretty much respected in my community as well because of my ability for the athletics, and I was a good student.
Now, Scotlandville is known for basketball and engineering. What was Scotlandville known for when you went?
When I went to Scotlandville had a lot of honor students. Scotlandville was well represented for its intellect. We had a lot of teachers who were concerned about the kids. Most of the teachers were homegrown. They lived in our community, so they were concerned with the kids, and they knew a lot of the kids' parents. So therefore, the teachers were interested in educating the kids, and the kids were interested in education. We didn't have a whole lot of disturbances within the classroom. Don't get me wrong, there were some, but kids as a whole were interested in education. And as far as athletics is concerned, Scotlandville was basically known for the basketball team, the track team, and their baseball team. Football, we won championships later on, but when I was in school, we didn't win any football championship. We won some district, but as I said, when I went to the military, I realized we won the state championship in football. But basically, we were a basketball powerhouse, track powerhouse. We had some of the top. We had one of the top 100-yard dash sprinters in the country, in Kirk Clayton, during the time that I was in high school, and he was highly sought after around the nation for as track was concerned. So our biggest thing was track, basketball, baseball, and academics.
What was discipline like?
First of all, discipline was one of those things that, as I said, we didn't have timeout. We had teachers who would put the paddle on. We had teachers who knew your parents, and we had teachers who had the authority to spank you. Nowadays, they don't do that. You know, it's rules and regulations against putting your hands on kids now, but back in the day, you can chastise kids. They've taken that out of the school system, and I think that's kind of hurt the system. But, you know, back in those times, like I say, the teachers knew the parents, and the parents would give the teachers the authority to discipline their kid. But the kids were disciplined out of love, not out of spite.
So do you feel like paddling kids should come back, should be?
Me personally, I think this thing of chastising kids has been, I wouldn't say criminalized. To some extent it has, but I think kids should be disciplined. And first of all, it should be started at home. If they started at home, then it wouldn't be so much the teacher's, authority or the teacher's job to discipline the kid. The kids should come to school with some discipline already instilled in them before they get to the school, so the teachers won't have so much trouble out of the kids once they get to school.
Okay. What was Scotlandville like during the civil rights movement?
That's another thing. Like I said, during the time that I was in school, I was not a part of what we would call integration, although some of the kids that attended Scotlandville had the opportunity to go to Glen Oaks, which is a predominantly white school, and some of the other schools, but I chose to stay at Scotlandville. But during the time of the civil rights movement, we, like I said, we were in our own community, a black community, which we were really not affected so much by the racism that was around the surrounding community, because we were one black community, self-sufficient during that time, because we had black businesses, we had black ownership in our community, but because of the interstate and stuff like that, that kind of killed Scotlandville. But the fact is that during the civil rights movement, we were very active because Scotlandville had their own bus system. We didn't have to depend on the city transit. We had black entrepreneurs in Scotlandville who owned their own vehicles, cab service and bus service. So we pretty much were independent. So the civil rights movement wasn't so much a hardship on us because we had our own entrepreneurs.
Okay. How did kids get to school? You said the bus, right. The bus system, walk.
Right. Well, during that time, most of the kids who came to Scotlandville, like I said, was within walking distance. And we didn't have a lot of buses. There wasn't busing going on during the time that I was in school, so kids walked to school. And it was just groups of kids leaving from their neighborhoods, walking to school, rain, sleet, or snow. We made it to school. I mean, it wasn't like the kids today who made out of paper, tissue paper, they get a cold in the New York second. You know, we were outside kids. We played outside most of the time. Most of the kids today, they play with their fingers. They play video games. They don't want to go outside in the sun. They don't want to go outside in the cold. We stayed outside. You know, we had a cold so much in our neighborhood that once the street lights came on, you had to come back home. But most of the time, during the time of daylight, we were outside playing.
Did the community support the school?
Yes, like I said, when I say support, during our athletic events, we had full stadiums. I mean, our community backed Scotlandville because we were a proud community. Like I said, we were a completely black community. We were a proud community. People supported athletics as well as our, I would say, arts. We had drama clubs. We had great bands. I mean, we had great bands. Mr. Bird, our band director during that time, was an outstanding band director, and he was a disciplinarian because he wasn't going to come in his band room and act in any kind of way. Or the fact was that we had good principals, we had good teachers who were really sensitive to the kids. I mean, we wasn't getting put out of school behind every little act the way they do now. Nowadays, kids are being put out of school for little or nothing because teachers are afraid of the kids. And I can say by some standards, they have a right to be afraid of kids because kids have gotten to the point where they don't respect grown-ups. They don't respect authority. But in our day, in my time, you know, just about anybody qualified to discipline you if they were a grown-up.
Okay, that is my last question for today. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. And anyway, that is my granddaughter that is interviewing me.